95% of who we are by the age of 35 is programmed. When I read that in your work, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks because I just turned 30. And if what you're saying there is true, without realizing it, there's a puppet master that sits above me that's calling the shots in a way that I don't think I've realized. Is that true?
I think if we define a habit as a redundant set of automatic, unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through repetition. A habit is when you've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your conscious mind. Then it's programmed subconsciously. So then when the body knows how to do it better than the conscious mind, then for the most part, the greatest habit we have to break is the habit of being ourselves, right? So there's a principle in neuroscience that says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. If you keep thinking the same way, if you keep making the same choices, if you keep doing the same things, if you keep reproducing the same experiences and feeling the same emotions, your biology begins to become hardwired in a sense. It becomes programmed. So in order to change something, to arrive at a new vision of your future, if you wanted to arrive at a new goal or new vision of your future, you'd have to change something about yourself in order to get there. And you'd have to change the way you think, the way you act, and the way you feel. When you begin to become conscious of those unconscious thoughts, so conscious that you don't let them slip by your awareness unnoticed or unchecked by you. If you catch yourself speaking in a limited way, or you become conscious that you're behaving in a certain way, in a habit, and you can notice or pay attention to how you're feeling, then you're no longer the program. Now your consciousness observing the program, you're only unconscious when you're in the program. And so to change then is to become so conscious that you don't go unconscious again. And in a sense, that is consciousness that is really the puppet master that really decides who we want to be. I think the biggest problem is that people lose their free will to a set of programs. And so their body is basically programmed into a predictable future based on what they've done in the past. So to change that habituation takes an enormous amount of energy, an enormous amount of awareness.
Why is this operating system, this program, useful? Because I look at everything the way that I do, and from doing this podcast and speaking to experts, I've stopped thinking that my body is against me. And I've started to realize that there's a reason for these things. There's a reason for the habits and patterns. And so why is this useful? Because it seems to be working against me in so many ways.
Well, first of all, when we look closely at certain habits, whether you can ride a bicycle, whether you can speak a language, whether you can snowboard, when you first learn any of those things, it takes an enormous amount of conscious awareness to get your body to do what your mind is intending. But if you keep doing it over and over again, then the body begins to economize it in some way. And so we have a lot of things that we can do automatically or unconsciously or subconsciously that allows us to multitask, to drive your car, to talk on the phone, to do several different things at the same time. So a habit isn't a bad thing. They can work for you or they can work against you. The problem is if you're, as an example, complaining and blaming and making excuses and feeling sorry for yourself and judging other people, and you practice that and you get really good at whatever you practice that enough times that you're unconscious to the fact that you're doing it. The moment you become conscious that you want to change that, you're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar. It's going to feel some degree of uncertainty. You're leaving kind of familiar known territory and you're stepping into the unknown. And so many people, when they want to change a habit, they have to be willing to be uncomfortable to do it. But habits can work for us. There's a lot of great habits that you and I both have that I would never want to change or would want to evolve in some way. But then there's a lot of habits that don't serve us. And so a person really wants to set a vision of the future, whatever that is, and they just have to agree that in order to arrive at that vision, they have to change in order to get there.
Someone said to me that there's a certain type of behavior pattern that we can't change. They said when we get trauma under the age of 10, things that happen at a very early age, some of those things cannot be changed. And then there's things that happen later in life that can be rewired and changed. Is that true? Are there some traumas, behavior patterns that just appear to be too stubborn and too resistant to change?
If you asked me that question just a few years ago, I probably would have a different answer than I do today. Because if you look at a lot of the work that we're studying in terms of human change and human transformation, we've seen people with really difficult pasts, really brutal pasts that were abused and traumatized at a very early age, and then repeated traumas that took place in people's lives. And they had night terrors, and they couldn't be in relationships. They had social anxiety. They had a lot of health conditions. We've seen them completely change to be happy people again, to free themselves from the past. And so I would never put a limitation on change, because I just don't think you can really predict that. I think many people that are learning how to change, and they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and how it gets easier. I think for the most part, people can change all kinds of things. And when they do change, our research shows that their brain changes, their heart rate changes, their gene expression changes. There's thousands of metabolites that are being released into their bloodstream that weren't there prior. There's a host of different changes that take place biologically that kind of support the person's transformation.
Is there